Thank you, Mr. Passmore, for meeting with me today. As you are well aware, there have been some major issues being experienced at Powerlight, and in particular at the Malaga division, all of which add up to quite a list of things that need to be addressed in the very short term. We'll go through them now. Issues with manufacturing equipment, strikes, low productivity, absenteeism, inexperienced workers, increased union influence, decreased management, employee relations, numerous management and union leadership changes, decreased revenue due to lower production levels, bullying, non-proactive behaviours, and even getting close to bankruptcy. It is clear from looking at reports from the WHS representative regarding dangerous behaviour in the workplace, i.e. bullying and threats. We have absenteeism, employee performance and breaches of code of conduct and policy. I can see that a large number of the issues you are currently experiencing have been brought about by the fact that you have 11 people that are obviously the troublemakers and are at the root of the actions that are being taken by the other employees. Given the fact that these 11 people have had such a huge influence on the other workers, you have found yourselves in a situation where the other workers are displaying behaviours that support these actions in absenteeism, decreased productivity and strikes, which have in effect already led you to the brink of bankruptcy once and has the potential to take you there again. Clearly, you have tried to rectify the situation with the manufacturing equipment by borrowing $3 million in 2006. But with all the changes in top management and union leadership at the Malaga division, although you have started to get on top of the manufacturing issues, you are still having huge problems with your personnel. I see from my notes, Mr. Passmore, that you wrote a letter to all staff to inform them that the behaviours would not be tolerated any further, and you have basically openly admitted that there have been problems and you are working hard to resolve them. However, you are also aware that due to a small minority group, operating efficiency is being compromised. I totally agree with your initial tactic of attempting to resolve the issues of these employees through persuasion and cooperation regarding behaviours such as sleeping on the job, playing cards, and even more worrying, the abuse and threats that managers have been subjected to by these employees. Clearly, this strategy has not worked. Again, as you have admitted in your letter to your employees, and now it appears that disciplinary action may need to be taken. Before we get into the strategy that I would suggest, I have some notes here on Mr. Grissom's thoughts on what has been happening from his point of view as the HR manager and how he feels about the action that has been taken to date by management. Unfortunately, I feel that because of the frequency of change in management, it became evident to the employees that the issues they were facing in the workplace were not really being taken seriously by senior management. He could see a huge problem with production equipment, but it took the company almost becoming bankrupt before they realised that the problem was bigger than expected. He got the feeling that it was easier to try and ignore the problems and hope they would go away, rather than face the problems head on. He was fully aware that there were only about 11 people that were at the root of the personnel problems, but they had had a huge impact on the other workers through their bullying and standover tactics. This has resulted in poor morale throughout the Malaga division and a high level of absenteeism. He knows unions are a vital part of industry these days, but since this facility became so heavily unionised by the Amalgamated Workers of Australia after the long strike that had been endured, the relationship between workers and management deteriorated to an all-time low. He added that he wasn't confident that the letter that you wrote to the workers was going to have any great effect on them unless it was backed up by strong actions. He felt that you had almost communicated to them that the behaviour that had been tolerated wasn't going to be now, so that almost it was okay up until this point. In his opinion, he would like to see all of the 11 perpetrators of these problems dismissed in the very near future. Mr. Passmore, do you agree with the points that Mr. Grissom has made? And what would you like to see happen for the Malaga division?
I completely understand what Mr. Grissom is saying. However, given the sensitivity of these issues and the influence these workers are having over our employees, I feel that we need to devise a negotiation strategy that will accommodate all parties, but will give us an outcome that will have a positive influence for the Malaga division and Powerwrite going forward. We never tolerated the behaviours. It was more a case that personally I was now fully aware of how out of hands things had become, until we almost became bankrupt, as my supervisors and line managers were clearly not communicating with me about the severity of the problems. Clearly, all previous attempts at trying to resolve these problems have met with increased issues with the workers and a further deterioration in employee management relations. Although I would like to basically dismiss all 11 of them, I'm very worried that this could once again lead to strike action, which will then impact on other workers, and I'm too afraid to speak out against the union and their representatives, and will bow to their requests because they are too scared of the ramifications for them and their families. If they don't, I have asked you to be involved in this so that we can try to find a way to work with the unions and the workers, as well as the supervisors and senior management, to try and reach some kind of compromise to avoid any further strike action, and in particular the threat of bankruptcy again.
Agreed. Okay, so taking everything into consideration, as you would know, any disciplinary measures that are taken will need to be done within the confines of the law. So the most important thing we need to do is to ensure that all actions are adherent to legislation and are fair and equal to the employees. For this reason, the Fair Work Commission will need to be included in these negotiations to ensure that the employees are being treated in the rightful manner to which they are entitled. My strategy would be to take the following steps. 1. Prior to taking any action, we need to look at all of the contracts and agreements that are currently in place with the workers, so that we have a full picture of what is expected from our employees according to these documents. We also need to be fully conversant with the Fair Work Act 2009, and that information with regard to this Act is shared with the employees, so that this legislation can be discussed between involved parties. These are vital points in ensuring that not only are we abiding by legislative laws, we are also actively working towards achieving Powerwrite's strategic and operational plans. 2. We should then meet with the relevant union representatives to get their opinions on the factors that have contributed to this situation, which will also give us the opportunity to try and start negotiations with them on how we go about reaching a reasonable resolution that will accommodate all involved parties. 3. Based on the fact there are 11 employees that are instigating most of the problems, I feel it is important that they are met with on an individual basis and given the opportunity to explain why they have been behaving in this manner and what they think could be done by management to reach a resolution for the division and its workers. It is important that we show impartiality to their comments and concerns and indicate that we are actively listening to what they are saying throughout the duration of these meetings. I expect we will meet with some personal styles, such as self-denying, where the person will be reticent in providing information or feedback, and they will not be forthcoming with their feelings. On the other hand, we may be met with some self-exposing styles, where they will be quite vocal, speak over us, and ignore feedback and our views and opinions. 4. If their response is negative and they clearly show they have no intention of compromising or delivering up information that may be of assistance in reaching a compromise, i.e. exhibiting traits of avoidance and competitive behaviours, we will then need to look at other methods. I would highly recommend using some collaborative and compromising techniques to see if we gain any ground with them to try and improve employer-employee relations. If we use the negotiation negotiation strategy of principal negotiation, we are showing them that we are valuing the issue as highly as the relationship. 5, it is vital that we communicate to them that we have heard their concerns and are interested in finding a middle ground so that both parties will be happy with the outcome we are looking to achieve. I do not feel that we should yield to their demands, but more importantly, look to accommodate and compromise in whatever way that we can. 6, if and when an agreement is reached, a formal copy of the agreement needs to be drawn up and signed by all relevant parties, and a copy of the signed agreement needs to be distributed to all relevant stakeholders. It is important that all of the relevant policies are reviewed and updated if required, and distributed to all staff so that they are fully informed of the requirements of these policies, in particular bullying and harassment, grievances and conflicts, and WHS requirements. All supervisors and managers need to be fully trained in grievance procedures and negotiation strategies, as well as bullying and harassment procedures, so that going forward this solution will not reach this extent again, this situation will not reach this extent again. I would also highly recommend that training in these procedures are undertaken by management as soon as it can be arranged. It is also important that management recognise the need to be more visible in the workplace on a daily basis through techniques such as open door policy, where they make themselves accessible to employees that wish to raise issues with them anytime, and by walking around and getting involved with the workers by asking questions and listening to what they have to say. It is important that the relationship between employers and employees is fostered in a positive manner, which will occur if management are more involved with the employees and show an active interest in listening to their concerns or grievances and demonstrating that they are willing to work with them from the onset of problems, not once they have escalated to a point of no return. If these discussions fail, we would then need to look to utilising other forms of negotiation, such as mediation, conciliation or arbitration. But I believe using the negotiating strategy I have suggested, we should be able to avoid having to involve these steps. How do you feel about this strategy, and what would you like to see as the outcome?
I feel very positive about what you have suggested here today, and I will ensure that all of the relevant policies are made available to supervisors, management and staff so that everyone is fully aware of the procedures that need to be followed going forward. In addition to this, I will make the necessary arrangements to instigate training programs and workshops for both management and staff to educate them on issues such as bullying and harassment and how to deal with grievances and conflict in the workplace. Thank you for your meeting with me today, as you have made me feel more confident in reaching a mutual outcome with the workers, and also for bringing to my attention the need for management to be more actively involved with the workers on a daily basis.
Thank you for asking me to assist you with working out the strategy, and I hope we will see a huge improvement in employment, employee relations and productivity in the very near future.